as I finish, that do not be overzealous about going to an election as a punishment entity. Because sometimes we're seeing political narratives and you are pushed to a corner until you are actually thinking that when President Ruto does not become president in 2027, he will get punished. And then you will become happy. President Ruto is beyond that level of saying that you will punish him. I need you to understand that after 2027, even if President Ruto comes back again in 2027, he will again go home in 2032. Okay? So at some point, he will actually leave. What you need to be thinking about when you go to the election is the progress of the country and not an individual. Do not accept to be bullied into a hate-love relationship with the leadership. Because at the end of the day, I want you to remember that in or out, President Ruto today stands as one of the people in the history of this country who is one of the 5 people that have ever risen to the helm of the presidency of this country. So he is politically an A student, because the highest attainment of anyone in politics to become president. And number 2, in or out, President Ruto will still be paid by taxpayers' money to his death. Him and his family. So stop coming up, run away from this thing in your head that you're going to punish President Ruto. Forget about that. Think about what the country ought to be. Think about how you want your country to progress. And that's why some of us look at it, and I feel like one of the reasons why I have a very soft spot for President Ruto is that he has faced the challenges of the country head-on. Head-on. And is one of the few that we've had who have had the courage to deal with things that have traditionally been gray areas. We have all talked about problems of the slums. Since I was wherever, we have all talked about the problems of the slums. But nobody has had the courage to really face this and start having a solution on it. President Ruto actually faces it and starts affordable housing. It starts with us at the Jubilee regime. Teething problems, court orders, some of the administration at that time pulls out. He actually has the courage to go on. We have had the problem of healthcare. We have talked about these problems left, right, and center. We have collected ourselves in WhatsApp groups and contributed monies for patients left, right, and center. But no one was facing the courage. No one had the courage to actually face this problem. I think President Ruto has actually done that. He has faced the problem. We have had the problem of debt in the country, that every time we have to develop the country is very problematic. President Ruto actually starts an infrastructure fund and says, you know what, going forward as a country, we must be at a place where we can deal with our debt crisis. We can develop the country without debt. And I feel that's a step in the right direction. Before the advent of this administration, all of us were, and I'm sure because all of you are actually Gen Zs, you were on TikTok and you saw how domestic workers, our young girls, were crying overseas, right? In the United Arab Emirates, United Arab countries. And they were crying and saying how they are being mistreated and all that kind of thing. You don't see that today. Is it because it fixed itself through osmosis? It's because the president had the courage to actually go to these countries and sign bilateral agreements that have been able to protect our girls who are domestic workers outside there. And that, to me, is a step in the right direction. We have had Uganda as the biggest trading partner of Kenya. The biggest trading partner of Kenya is actually Uganda. But every time a president wanted to do anything about things that can develop our trade in road construction, they built things that sometimes they are nice, yes, they will improve the value of land, but they don't affect our trade. Like the bypasses that we have, they are nice. We acknowledge them. But the road that actually deals directly with our trade is the Rironi Mau Summit Road. He has had the courage to actually face that head on. I look at the youth employment problem, and my brother quotes the correct statistic and says 67% is actually true. But that figure is usually contestable because 67% is the figure when you're talking about youth employment in terms of the modernity of the jobs. But when you talk about the International Labour Organization figure, is actually 15% because it talks about youth employment in terms of, does the young person have something to do? Youth unemployment is a crisis that is not just in Africa, it is world over. But what does President Ruto do? Everyone, trust me, even Maraga in his manifesto will tell you he'll deal with youth unemployment. Everybody. But the bigger question is always, what are you going to do? President Ruto starts the Nyota Fund and says, you know what? Some people can actually venture into business. He starts kazi maju. He said some of them can actually be transported. We can't provide all the jobs in this country. Some have to get out. He says we'll do affordable housing to also create more jobs for those same young people inside here. I look at his administration and I'm able to see him providing opportunities to many young people. Today, we have a chair of the Finance Committee in Parliament who is barely 34 years. You look at State House and look at the people who hang around the president, you see so many people who are actually young. I want to dare you, I want to challenge you to look at your presidential candidate of choice and show me any three. If you in your head, you can see 3 young people who are around him. And also check if those young people are paid or they are volunteers. In all your political parties that you exist in, the position of young people is called volunteers. But are you aware of those political parties? Are you aware that those political parties have people they pay salaries? But when it comes to you as a young person, you're told to volunteer because the future will be bright. So these are the realities that we must actually face. And these are the things that I look at. And for me, I feel this president has actually been able to do 1 or 2 things. I look at the marginalization. Today, people of Wajir can also see government. People of Wajir. Today, we have a PWD department as a state department under the office of the president. These are realities. These are not things that when someone says, you say they are supporting government. No, those are facts. They are basic facts. So when we come from those that realization, then we'll be able to move the country forward. So that where I sit, I look at the progress that the president has been able to make this thus far, and I ask myself, can we be able to move the country a notch higher? And when I look at the bandwagon of people that we have in the opposition, I see none of them who can actually speak for 2 minutes without mentioning the name President Ruto. If you want people to have a headache, even in this room, tell them to tell us about 2027 as an opposition leader and don't mention President Ruto. Because the only thing they know how to do is that you start speaking and then you start saying what President Ruto has done wrong. But the fact that you can't speak for 5 minutes on the concentration of what you want to do is one of the things that I look at and feel like, do we really have an opposition in this country? And so young people, as a generation, we must move away from being pulled into the emotions of political leaders who are seeking political progression and nothing about our country. Thank you.